Okay. So I'm calling the meeting to order at 5:05. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Southborough Advisory Committee will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Southborough's website at www.southboroughtown.com. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch or participate in the meeting may do so in the following manner by finding the meeting at www.southboroughtown.com/remote meetings. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on Southborough's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. All right. I should have that memorized by now. Okay. First order of business is to introduce our newest member, which is Jason Malinowski. So Jason, I don't remember, are you actually taking Chelsea's seat or is it another one? Are you replacing Chelsea?
That is what Paul told me. I think because she was the only one that left you, right? And everyone else that was up got
but there's
reappointed.
2 official vacancies too, so I'm not sure which one he appointed you to. So let's assume.
He put me to a 3-year term. So
Okay.
whatever seat that was.
All right. Okay. So I assume, well, I know John and Andrew know Jason. Andrew, do you know Jason?
Me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So Judy and Tim. So we'll reintroduce Jason when they're on. So welcome, Jason.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Okay, so the first thing we've got to do is the advisory bylaw does allow advisory members to participate on one ad hoc committee. What it doesn't say is that only one can participate on any committee. So Jason is chair of the fairly newly formed Capital Planning Committee that was formed in March. So we need to vote to approve his participation on that committee. So that will make 3 of us on it now. So it's pretty much dominated by advisory at this point, but that's okay. That's right up our alley. So assuming no one has an issue with that, can someone make a motion to approve Jason's participation on the Capital Planning Committee?
So moved.
So that was Andrew.
Yep.
Okay, Andrew Pfaff made the motion. Second.
Second.
Andrew Dennington, second. All in favor, and I'll do a roll call. So Cook, aye. Andrew Pfaff,
Aye.
Andrew Dennington,
Aye.
Mr. Mooney.
Aye.
All right, so that is 4-0-1.
And I'm gonna, do you need me to vote?
Well,
I prefer to abstain.
because I don't know the answer, given it's 4, I'd prefer you to vote.
Okay,
Just in case.
aye.
Okay, all right, so 5-0, just in case. Okay, so that's great. We're going to wait till Tim and Judy get here to elect officers, so everybody's here. So we've got one little skimpy set of minutes to approve, which was our 15-minute meeting on June 25th. So I did those minutes. Feel free to offer any edits to them. But we really didn't do anything but approve minutes. So it was pretty easy to do. So anybody have any comments on those minutes?
Yeah.
This afternoon.
Yeah, so Kathy, the only things I saw on there was we need to maybe just add that we need to add the blurb of what you read into the minutes, whatever the pursuant to Governor Baker thing.
Okay.
And then I think you have to list out the actual roll call vote, but we can just copy it from one of our other meetings. I can make those edits and send it back to you.
If you would, I would appreciate it.
Yeah.
I think you also need, Kathy, if you said you wrote them, you also need to wrote that you were the author of them.
Say that again, Jason.
if you were the author of them, I think you need to list yourself as the author of them.
I was the author. Will you list me, Andrew?
Sure.
Okay. And then I resign. No more minutes for me.
Me too.
Anybody else have any comments on the substance of the minutes? All right, so can we have a motion to approve the minutes as edited by Andrew?
So moved.
Andrew Dennington moved. Second.
Second.
Andrew Pfaff seconded. Roll call. Cook, aye. Andrew Pfaff.
Aye.
Andrew Dennington.
Aye.
Mr. Mooney.
Aye.
Jason, I need you again.
Aye. It's a good thing it was a simple meeting and I watched it.
It
too.
was. You might not like it. So surely it's nothing wrong with us. Okay, so 5-0 to approve the minutes. So we're all caught up the minutes. Everything's been posted but this one. So we are in good standing with our town clerk. All right, let's see what else we can do before we get on. All right, so let me do my update. So far, no plans for special town meeting as far as anybody really focused on it. So we know nothing as far as whether it's going to happen or not. You kind of go through the things that would be on it that we know of right now. And you could conclude that there's no compelling reason to have it. There's a couple of capital items. There's a couple of citizens petition articles that aren't particularly time sensitive, the plastics ban. You've got the ED or the CPC articles. So I don't know what they're going to decide. They didn't talk much about it last night, so we still don't know whether that's going to happen or not.
Yeah. I'd like to have the meals tax sooner than later.
But you know, Andrew, kind of hard to do that with, I mean, as we know, it's a pass-through, right? But
Yeah.
the restaurants are in such, I mean, Tomaso's had to close again. The restaurants are in such trouble. It's kind of hard to want to do anything that affects them at all, no matter how minuscule, you know? So I don't know. I almost wait. I wish we'd done it, 3 years ago and it'd be done, right? We should have done it years ago, but we didn't. So it's just unfortunate that we proposed it and then we had a pandemic. So we'll see. So I think that's due coming up. Okay, so the end of year info where we'll see what free cash is, what the budgets to actuals look like, what local revenue looks like. We should have that for the next meeting. The only caveat is Brian Ballantyne's going on vacation, I believe, next week. So he thinks we'll have it. If we don't have it, then we'll have it for the next meeting. So it's imminent. The new accountant, Carla McAuliffe, has started. So she's officially in her chair. So my guess is she's pretty busy, but it's going to be interesting to see how that all turned out. By looking at the requests that we're going to deal with in a second, you can conclude that there were no departments that had a budget problem other than ones we're going to look at. So we should end up with quite a bit of free cash. I bet it's going to be at least $2 billion because of what I know already. So we'll see. So I'll get us a good start for fiscal year 23. Yeah, 23. COVID expenses. So the town has set up, they pulled all what they believe are COVID related expenses out of the various budgets. For example, out of Jim Haggerty's budget, they pulled the cost of the town meeting, the extra costs, cost of all he had to do for the election. So it's all sitting in a receivable that they will at some point in the near future apply to the state to have reimbursed. So that's the plan, to try to get the expenses reimbursed. It's just sitting on a balance sheet account. It won't get closed out at year end, and then the reimbursement will come in. So it's not going to affect our budget at all, the way they've got this set up. Now, I still remain slightly skeptical about what the schools are doing with their budgets. They're looking at 3 scenarios, full school, full remote, and then some type of hybrid. So I have asked Greg Martineau so many times, I'm sure he is sick of me asking, are you sure that the budget that was approved at town meeting is going to accommodate all scenarios? And he says, absolutely yes. So I assume that what that means is the budget that we've approved probably is looking at regular school, just the normal school year, fully everybody in, et cetera. And they're assuming that any extra cost of doing that, PPE, whatever they have to do to separate kids, is going to be reimbursed somehow from the state and or federal government. So I think that's why they are comfortable that their budget is going to be okay, no matter what they do.
Hey, Kathy, can I interrupt? Are they going to keep a separate accounting of COVID-related expenses as well?
They're supposed to,
Okay,
and Brian says they are, so I assume that they are, because I think that's the only way that they would be comfortable saying what he said to me, which is they're fine. Because there's got to be quite a bit of cost in every scenario. But if they bring all the kids back at one time, then there's got to be a lot of cost.
Right.
So,
Hey, Kathy, I don't know if it falls here, or if it falls on, future planning, but I think it'd be really important to understand what they are applying for and make sure that, this committee agrees that they've undertaken a pretty thorough accounting of the expenses, because I keep hearing reference to the state, but there's two things in play here, right? You had the CARES Act, which is funneled through the state and the state allocated to South Pro. Then you also have FEMA, which FEMA comes first, right? Which would impact more our public safety aspect of it. I haven't heard any discussion about that or how that's all working. So I guess what my request would be is that we get some sort of presentation from Mark, Brian, or whoever the right people are on that, and make sure that we've, optimized what we can, and we're not, deviating from the rules, but also not leaving something on the table.
I totally agree with you, Jason. It's been discussed several times, but we've gotten back kind of general answers that yes, we've got, but the number that was given the Board of Selectmen when Sam Stivers asked was really low. It was like $40,000. So you're going, it's just somehow got to be more. And of course, you also want to make sure, what about things that were bought for people to work at home? So I'm not sure that anyone has really been creative in trying to make sure that everything that could possibly, all they can say is no, right? If you don't give it to them, they're not going to give it back to you. So maybe one of us should agree to be the point person to work with Brian to make sure we understand what the process is, see if we can help as far as trying to identify expenses, so that 3 or 4 people thinking about this is probably better than 2 or 1, to make sure we get everything that we could be entitled to, because there's a lot of money out there to get, that's for sure. So how does that sound? Judy, if you're with us, you need to unmute. I can't tell if that's you or not. It looks like it may be you.
I come in. Oh, good. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I can't get the link to work, so I just called in.
Okay. All right. So anyone want to volunteer to actually work with Brian, probably mostly, and maybe the new accountant, Carla McAuliffe, to make sure we understand how they're going about the process to do it, kind of be constructive and see if we can't add some value to the process.
I'm happy to assist, but I would like to defer to later in the meeting to see what else. Do you have kind of other assignments to make sure?
I'll do it too. I don't want
Yeah.
to, if somebody
Yeah,
really wants
I'm happy to.
I think I hear Tim Martell saying he'd be love to do it, so.
see what you get. All right, we'll see when he goes back. So, don't let me forget. We'll make the assignment before we into it. So, I think that's an excellent idea, Jason. So that's all I know about COVID and the next town meeting. All right, Judy is here now. I still want to wait for Tim to vote for officers though, so I don't want to do that yet. So let's start talking about because we only have 6:15, so I can't put too much time here. So let's talk about the reserve fund transfers and the interdepartmental transfers. So does everybody have the list that I sent? So we've got 5 reserve fund transfers and 3 interdepartmental transfers. All right, so I'm going to start with the reserve fund ones, which are under the reserve fund transfers, as we know, are under our purview solely. So we're the ones that decide yea or nay. And if we say no, then they'll put them through as interdepartmental transfers. So if we're going to say no, we probably should have a pretty good reason to say no. There is plenty of money to do it. We've got more than enough money left to do the 5 reserve fund transfers. So that's not an issue. All right, so let's start with the 2 legal bills, our 2 legal departments. So we've got our normal town council, and we've got the special legal fund that we have set up for everything else that Aldo doesn't do. So as far as the town council, the budget has been $95,000 as long as I can remember. John, do you remember any other number? I mean, it says it's a fixed number. It's not based on it, and it's not something Aldo has agreed with. It's just a budget. So he's
Yeah,
still,
I believe his rate has been the same at least as since 2010. I don't know what happened before that, but I don't think he's had an increase in his rate since 2010.
well, it's 150 an hour right now, if that means anything to you. So that's what it is right now, which for all those who work with Boston attorneys, and we got 2 of them sitting here, 150 I think is pretty low. And so this year he had a lot going on. If you saw the list of stuff, he had a lot of OML requests, he closed on selling Fable Hall. That was $3,000. So it's just a lot of things. So the 95 is nothing but an estimate. It's not a fixed fee that he's agreed to. Some years it's under, some years it's over. And this year it's over $13,000.
Hey, Kathy, that looks like about 90 additional hours he put in
Yeah.
for last fiscal year. Do we have any indicator or barometer as to expected increase for the next fiscal year?
No, in fact, if you look at some of the things, let's hope that they die down. Well, Fable Hall is a one-time thing, right? Let's hope that the multiple OML and public records requests that were signed to him are reduced at some point, right? So the answer, John, long answer to short question is no, we don't have any idea whether this year is going to be any different.
Kathy, do we allocate legal expenses to any of the business lines or any of the business areas?
No,
Like if he's defending a ZBA something, that would be a legal expense to the ZBA budget.
no, we do not. And obviously he does do that, so no.
Yeah.
It goes, it's got its own department, it's $95,000, and it's either going to be a little bit above or a little bit below. Andrew Dennington, any comment from our lawyer?
First off, going forward, I mean, what could be expected going forward? I think there's the Park Central case.
Yep.
You can anticipate increased legal expense there because the Worcester Superior Court case was scheduled for a trial sometime this summer, but that has been, I think, postponed because of COVID. And
Are you doing trials on Zoom these days? How do you do trials these days? They're just all postponed?
Well,
Yeah, there's no, go ahead, Andrew.
look, I think that this is one that theoretically there could be a trial via Zoom because there wouldn't be a right to a jury trial, but I'm interested in what John has to say.
Yeah, I mean, all civil jury trials have been essentially suspended through the first week of September. Most recent order. We expect another order to come out after that. And then once the system is up and running, they need to prioritize criminal cases, in particular those individuals who are in custody. So the civil cases or impact to our budget townwide is not going to happen to the extent it does happen until best case scenario, January 2021.
And Aldo will actually try the case?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. That obviously would be a board of selectmen issue. And I don't know the answer to that, Kathy.
Does he try many cases?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so definitely some uncertainty there. But I don't know what, I mean, the 95 is what's been approved for next year. Anybody else want to talk about that one?
No.
Okay, so let's vote.
Hey, Jason, you moved to a
Your
garbled.
audio sounds weird.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
My question was, are you doing motions on each of the line items? You're going to do them all collectively at the end?
I'm going to do them one by one, just in case there's a difference of opinion on anything, just to keep it clean.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kathy, I might think maybe it seems like from a process standpoint, at some point in time, doing like a year-end review of what's, we're doing interdepartmental transfers, but we don't know like how, to your point, like what did people spend against their budget? What are we looking at from an overall year-end reporting? Do we have a lot of money left? Do we not have a lot of money left? That would be kind of something, maybe next year we can try to see if Brian can have that meeting.
I've actually asked him to do that for this year. So part of what he's going to give to us is a compare. We're going to see the actual individual budgets compared to the actuals line by line. Because the departments themselves, they move things around within their own budget, right? We're not doing that. We're doing between departments.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, we're going to look.
But
at
why can't, in this may go to some of the future items we're going to talk about here, Kathy, but why can't they provide that on like a monthly basis? So you know how someone's trending during the year. Now I get some departments don't accrue at the same rate over the year, but wouldn't you have had a heads up on some of the stuff that it was trending the wrong way and you're only dealing with like a 1 month of activity, as opposed to obviously we're all sitting here tonight, looking at what probably was known 2 months ago?
You're so astute, Jason. So yes, we would have known about the building department mistake a long time ago because they knew about it when they started looking things in December and January that something was wrong. So yes, we would have known too if we'd asked for it. So there's no reason we can't ask for that. We just haven't done it historically.
I would love to see, and I think I mentioned this when we were doing the budget, like when we do budgets in the private sector, you have, 8, 9, 10 months of actuals, you have 2 or 3 months of forecast and a forecast for the year. And then that's what shows against your budget. And then you ask for what you need for budget for next year. But we do it budget off of budget. So
you want to do it monthly or quarterly?
I think we should be able to get a monthly report. I don't know of any business that doesn't do maybe we don't need a forecast, maybe a quarterly forecast. I don't think we need like a 1+11, but quarterly would be nice. But especially when we get in the budget season, having a forecast, the budget, and then what their budget asked for this year. Because we might have one department that was 50% of budget this year, and they're asking for an increased budget over budget for next year. And we couldn't use that information to push back and say, well, you didn't spend what you had this year. Why are you asking for the same amount or more next year?
Okay.
I think it's a good idea. And this monthly report would just be like 2 pages, right?
It'd just be like your actuals versus budget year to date.
It can be as simple as a spreadsheet that we use for the budget. That second page is each department. So it absolutely.
And the budgeting software that we talked about the same time last year, has that been purchased and implemented? Would that help this?
I don't know the answer. I meant to ask Brian when I talked.
They got a grant for it. But he told me for capital that it's going to take him like 6 months to implement it. So I think maybe that's another area some subsection of this group can help them with. I don't want to put Tom on the spot, but that's also an IT thing of why it takes so long. But that seemed long to me, but I wasn't in a position to challenge it. But that's why we're still maintaining capital in Excel as opposed to their program. But they at least have the package and it's fully paid for, and the taxpayers didn't pay a penny for it.
That might be something Tim and I can look at. I think we've both done budget systems before.
Okay, that sounds good to me, Tim and Andrew P. But it's in the budget, so that should be left over at the end of the year. Because we didn't know it was going to be a grant. So who were you talking to, Jason, that said 6 months?
Brian. But that wasn't like last week. So I think at least 1 or 2 of those months have come. He told me to continue working in Excel because it wasn't imminent.
Okay. All right, so back to legal. Department 151. So Andrew Pfaff, can you make all the motions and Andrew Dennington do the seconding?
Sure.
Okay. Judy, I keep forgetting you're there because I don't see your face, so that's how we do
Well, have
it.
we talked about each of these yet?
No,
Or
we're just doing one. We're doing the legal first. We're doing one at a time.
Okay.
All
And
right,
do we-
so
And
Andrew,
what's the amount?
the amount is $13,450. So you're right, put the amount in the motion and also the department number 151.
All right, let me write that down. Oh.
if you want, I have the thing in front of me. We could
What
reverse.
are you doing?
Why don't, Andrew, why don't you do the motion and I'll do the second?
All right,
So I'll do it all in one motion. I move that we approve a reserve fund transfer of $13,450 from the reserve fund to legal department number 151, and a transfer of $2,000 from the reserve.
no, stop.
fund-
We're gonna do one at a time. We hadn't talked about
Okay.
that. Okay, stop. Andrew Pfaff.
Second.
Okay, roll call. Cook, aye. Andrew Pfaff.
I'm first.
Okay, sorry, Judy. Okay, Judy Butts.
Bud's aye.
Okay, Butts, aye. Cook, aye. Pfaff,
Aye.
Dennington,
Aye.
Malinowski,
Aye.
Rooney.
Aye.
Okay, so 6-0.
Kathy, does Board of Selectmen vote on these or just us?
No, just us on these. They vote on the interdepartmental transfers, and they approved those last night. 3 of those. Okay, next one is the special legal 153. And that's the person who does everything Aldo doesn't do. It's only $2,000 above. Let's see what he said he did.
So I'll make a motion. I move that we approve a reserve fund transfer of $2,000 from the reserve fund to special legal department number 153.
Second.
Any discussion on that one? The reasons given were Park Central, other OML requests, etc. Okay. All right. Roll call. Judy Butts,
Bud's aye.
Cook, aye. Dennington,
Aye.
Malinowski,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
Rooney.
Aye.
All right, 6-0. Okay, the next one is the famous public safety building energy usage. Okay, so for this meeting, we're only going to talk about fiscal year 20. Fiscal year 21 is a different story. We talked about it a little bit at town meeting, but there's more to it than what you heard there. So this one is, you saw the letter written by John Parent, which basically said that he didn't know when the new building was going to open, so he based the budget for fiscal year 20 on the old building expenses. So that's what he did. Too late to do anything about it. $21,000 over what we thought. So Jason, feel free to interject here if you want to.
I'll just say we're in a good spot for FY21, and I'm happy to present more details on that at a future meeting. But they clearly just didn't budget for the new build current fiscal year we're talking about for FY20.
All right, Andrew Dennington. Motion.
I move that we approve a reserve fund transfer of $21,169 from the reserve fund to other operations department 159.
I second that motion.
Any further discussion? Roll call. Judy,
Yeah, Bud's aye.
Cook, aye. Dennington. Dennington.
Aye.
Okay, couldn't hear you. Malinowski,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
Mr. Rooney.
Aye.
6-0 on that one. Okay, the next one is the program coordinator for Youth and Family Services, Shannon. They decided after the year got started that she was in the wrong class as far as the SAP. So they went to SAP, they changed it, and as a result, she was in a higher salary range. So they voted to increase her salary. So I don't know what else I can say about that one. It's just, I'm not sure it's reserved for a transfer, but if it's not, it's going to go to an interdepartment transfer. So you still, one way or another, it's going to get approved. So anyone want to talk about that one anymore?
I just have a question about it, and I understand it's not a lot of money, but with the materials for this meeting, we're sent excerpts of a personnel board meeting from October 3rd, 2019.
Yep.
And the title, the heading is of this portion of the excerpted minutes is promotion or reclassification of Ms. Kanamian, YFS Administrative Assistant, right? So is that the person that we're talking about?
Yes.
So it says here in the minutes, YFS Administrative Assistant. And I'm just recalling that a lengthy discussion about giving approval for YFS to hire an administrative assistant. I thought there was previously no administrative assistant. So
Well, she's actually a program coordinator, which is what the problem was. So she wasn't hired as an admin assistant. She was hired as a program coordinator, and they apparently just put her in the wrong place as far as SAP goes. Because they were trying to fix that. So she was never hired.
She was
never
put in
hired.
the SAP as an administrative assistant, but she really is a program coordinator.
Yeah, and always was from day one. So they were trying to fix something that was done wrong to begin with.
Okay, I just want to make sure because we had such a lengthy
did, didn't
discussion
we?
about
Yes, we did.
that.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Anybody else on that one?
I would just say for future, if someone's going to get a mid-year promotional raise, it should be covered within the department budget, or there should be a heads up back in October that it wouldn't be covered by a department budget.
So you're
But I'm
saying
not gonna-
they should have the money to do it if it's going to be done.
Yeah, like public safety does mid-year increases, for example. Like if the chief decided he wanted a new position, like if he could fit it within the budget, he can do that. So I would just, department that lean with just salaries, basically they knew they would be over budget because they had nowhere else to put it. So just for the future, I'm not going to vote no on it, but I just think it's a message that should go back.
Okay. Timothy's here.
Yeah,
Hey, Kathy.
Hey,
Sorry
Tim.
I'm late.
That's okay. So we haven't done too much, Tim. We're in the middle of talking about the reserve fund transfers. And the one that we're talking about right now is the $2,000 one for Youth and Family Services that was caused because they changed the classification of their program coordinator to be the correct classification. They had her in as an admin instead of what she was, which was a program coordinator. And of course, their budget is so lean, there's no money in their budget to make any changes. So they're having to ask for reserve fund transfer.
That was effectively a promotion.
Well, on the books it was, she should have been there to begin with. She was a program coordinator from day one. That's why she was hired. She was not hired as an admin assistant. So it just got put into the SAP in the wrong place.
Kathy, one question. If we look at the actual form, what does the present balance and above appropriation mean?
It just means if you literally looked at their account, that's what it says. So it doesn't mean you're trying to get that to zero.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get at. Like, so they're asking for more.
Well, they haven't closed your books yet. So no, they're not asking for, this is what they think they need to be at zero when everything's closed out.
Okay.
Okay. So he did this the last week in June. So they're still getting the final bills and et cetera. So they believe that everything they've asked for should bring these budgets to zero.
Okay.
Make sense?
Sort of.
Well, what else do you mean to say?
No, I mean, it's just one of those, like if I look at the special legal, at present balance is 2,900 and they're asking for 2,000. So they must, I mean, it's July 1st is the date it's labeled and we end fiscal year, then, Sort of
When I
like,
asked him, he said he's got more bills to go against, that it's going to be 0 when he's done. So we'll check,
But,
see if it was.
you know what I mean? But then he's not over because of the special counsel. He's over because of those invoices.
Yes. Well, there's invoices that he's got to pay from,
Yeah,
that go to that department. So when he posts those, he's going to be over by the amount
Yeah.
he's requested.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, all right. Okay, Andrew Dennington, can you make the motion, please?
Youth and Family Services, right?
Yes,
I move that we approve a reserve fund transfer from the reserve fund to Youth and Family Department 542 in the amount of $2,895.
Second,
okay, Andrew Pfaff seconded. Roll call, Judy Betts,
Yeah, Bud's eye.
Cook, aye. Dennington,
Aye.
Martell,
Nay.
oops, I'm doing this out of order. Malinowski, sorry.
Aye.
Pfaff,
aye.
Mr. Rooney.
Aye.
All right, so this one is 7-0.
I voted
That's-
against.
Who said
Kathy.
that? Who said
Tim.
that?
Martell.
Yeah, so you voted, right, Tim?
I voted against.
Oh, sorry, Tim.
It's no problem.
Okay, 6-1. I apologize. I really thought you said aye. Okay, next one is capital budget. So this one, everybody see the letter that I included on the email that Mark Purple wrote when this happened? You may recall, we actually had an issue with this. We actually thought that they should have asked us before they did it. By the time we heard about it, it was done. They had a truck bogged. And we thought there probably were other vehicles that could have been used, but it was already done at that point. So she's got her truck. She put an awful lot of miles on that old vehicle between the time she started, which was January of 19, to the time it broke down. She put 50,000 miles on it in 7 months, 8 months. It was old. So it's a done deal. So anybody?
The issue here, right, is that this has already happened and it's just being asked to be, it was not in the capital budget at the time that the money was actually spent. So it's being allocated to the correct line item, right?
Yeah, that I don't have an
Already
issue
happened.
with. Yeah, that I don't have an issue with. But the issue we had at the time was that we didn't think that there had been an exhaustive review of what might have been used in lieu of going out and buying a new vehicle. And it was just done before we got the memo and it was done. So we had no chance to weigh in on that one.
I still don't understand how it happened. And can you remind me, was there an explicit appropriation at town meeting for this?
No. That's
So,
why, that's
I
why
mean-
they're asking for it to come out of the reserve fund.
Yeah, it seems to me to be not only inappropriate, but also potentially illegal.
Well, the reserve fund is there to fund anything that comes up during the year that is either unexpected or an emergency. So you could call a vehicle whose brakes failed an emergency. So my
You would-
problem with this was a little bit different, is that we didn't think at the time that there was enough of an effort made to see if there's not another vehicle in town that could work. And they just sent it to us and said, this is what we did.
I mean, my issue is the reserve fund's there for your exact, emergencies. Okay, this could be classified as an emergency, but you get approval before you purchase. This was purchased and then asked for us to send the money for it. That was my
Well,
concern at the time.
Knowing that they were going to ask for this to come out of the reserve fund, one would have thought they would have come to us to let us know what they wanted to do first, is what you're saying. And
That's
I-
why, I mean, for these little emergency things that pop up, that's why the town gives us that budget to be able to make those decisions when we don't have town meetings. But to Tim's point, neither of those things happened. They went out, purchased it, and then said afterwards, here's my bill, I'm gonna need money for this.
And here's the practical problem with a vote against this tonight. This is July 15th, which is the last day to do this. You're supposed to have this all done by the 15th of the month following the end of the fiscal year. If we say no, then the choice of getting this funded would be to go back and call it an interdepartmental transfer. There's plenty of money in the benefits account to absorb it. That's not the issue, but the Board of Selectmen is supposed to vote on that too. They voted last night on the 3 interdepartmental transfers. They aren't meeting tonight, so there won't be time for them to approve this as an interdepartmental transfer. So there is the practical problem.
But Kathy, even if they were meeting tonight, my understanding is it's still, I'll call it a ding on their audit report.
Yeah.
I would say, I wasn't on the committee, but I went back to your minutes from the meeting where this was brought to you. I think the process was incredibly poor, right? And I think that's what has been said before. But I think this is another example of looking at one thing in a silo and fixing one problem instead of seeing, there were vehicles in town that need to be replaced that we're still going to have to replace that could have actually functioned for this building inspector, et cetera. So regardless of where the committee votes tonight, I think someone should draft a letter for this committee to vote on next time that's pretty strongly worded, saying, even if we pass it, let's just say that, the practice needs to be this, and that, there should be never an expense of that amount without specific town meeting approval. I mean, we went before town meeting for much smaller items from a capital perspective this year, like a third or a quarter of the size. So
Yeah,
I think either way, I would advocate that we draft something.
Yeah, Jason, I would have loved to have seen maybe giving the other fire vehicle, the Explorer, to the building inspector, and then using that $25,000-$30,000 to buy another command vehicle.
Yep.
But
So now instead we're going to spend 25, and then we still have to buy 60,000 command vehicle as opposed to just spending 60.
and now we have an Explorer that nobody can use.
So what I think happens if we vote against this as a reserve fund transfer, so it's too late to call it an interdepartmental transfer, you can't get that done, is that they'll close it out. There's still plenty of, the town budget's still in a significant surplus. I think it's going to be $2 million. So they'll close it out fine as far as the state goes. But it's my understanding that the auditor, when he looks at this, will put some type of probably comment in his management letter as far as this goes. So that would be the ding that we would incur from doing this. And I'm not sure it's not worth the ding.
So Kathy, when you say a ding, is that something that would have any impact on the town's bond rating or anything like that?
It's so small. I mean, Andrew Pfaff, you can, I would seriously doubt that.
Yeah, probably not. But the other thing is, personally, do I want to take the chance? I'd probably say let's do it and then approve it. And then, I think to Jason's point, a nice, real strongly worded letter to Mark and Brian that, we're changing the process on how advisory would like to see these things and how the town would like to see these things. And, going forward, we're not going to be as lenient. And also I feel that, coming to us on the 15th, the last possible day, when we could have had more discussions on this because we knew about it in March or whenever it was, doesn't give us much options but to approve it.
Yeah,
We made it clear we had an issue with this when it happened, just for everybody's information.
Yeah, just
They
to
knew
be
it.
clear, that letter you want to send is going to end up in the trash can. It's not going to.
Not if we send it to the BOS, and not if we ask for just a further conversation about collaboration.
Yeah, and relative to the bond issue, we negotiated very hard and aggressively to get that AAA rating. It wasn't a softball gimme. So to the extent there is a ding associated with it, I think we all acknowledge there's a problem in the process. But again, I think the letter suffices to send the outrage, if you will, as opposed to being against it.
I really think you're overestimating this ding. We're not going to lose our bond rating over this. It's so small.
I agree. All I was going to say is that a car was bought, reserve fund transfer was requested. It was denied because of the circumstances, and this is what they did. So I don't think it will either. But I read the committee right, it looks like there's probably a majority that would like to approve it with that letter written. So why don't you make the motion that way, Andrew Dennington, and then let's see how we vote.
Now Kathy, is the DPW, I mean, it got paid out of the
Yeah.
DPW budget, right?
And I don't
That
think
was
so.
a
I think it
point that
came
I was
out of
gonna
capital.
raise.
I think it came out of, the only reason DPW got brought up is they apparently lent her a car or they had something they could give her.
They have the mechanic. So they were incurring the expenses and just mechanic fees.
Okay, but on the forecast you saw, the capital budget is really, to the penny on budget.
It should be because
I
it carries
think the
over.
answer is yes, because I mean, we knew exactly what we were buying. So if anything, you're right, it's either over or it's on budget, or we'd be asked for something else.
Yeah, no, I mean, because this is saying basically that it's, the balance is 25,370 and they're asking for 25,371.
Okay, so it is to the penny then. So you're right. So you see, I didn't look at that. So yeah.
So it's
And remember,
interesting,
this
it's
is the budget
budget.
capital. This is not warrant capital. This is budget. This
Right.
is what gets closed out. So yeah, that's exactly right, Andrew. So
Okay.
it's a dollar. So yeah, everything else was right on, and then they slapped this in there.
Okay, just before I'm making a motion, so I understand this a little bit better, can you just remind me again the difference between the budgeted capital item, department number 930, and all the individual capital items that we talk about specifically, right? Is this something that otherwise should have been, there should have been a separate line item for it in the warrant?
Yes.
So what are the things that are
You
supposed to
could
be?
have
in
done it.
Department 930?
Vehicles, we tend to throw in what we're calling budget capital.
Okay,
because
like
they-
police cruisers or?
Yes, so this is in the same category as police cruiser. It's not in the warrant article where you're buying a ambulance or a fire truck. That are the warrant articles that are long-lived. This actually gets closed out. So this is the recurring stuff. Now, you don't buy a car for the building inspector that often, but it is in that category as far as where they're putting it right now. So that's where they've put it, in that category with police cars.
Okay, so do you want me to make the motion and then we'll see how it
With
goes?
the caveat that the letter has to get written.
The letter is going to be going to who?
BOS,
And Mark Purple?
copy to Mark Purple and to Brian Ballantyne.
Okay. I move that we approve also, if I'm not sure how I'm going to vote on this, can you make a motion and then vote against something?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. I move that we approve a reserve fund transfer of $25,371 from the reserve fund to the capital budget department 930.
Okay, but
I
add to your
get that right?
motion, and we're going to write a letter to the BOS.
Oh, that's right, correct. And we're going to write a letter to the Board of Selectmen expressing our concerns about this with a copy to Mr. Purple and Mr. Ballantyne.
Andrew, Brad,
Okay.
any further discussion?
I would just, it doesn't have to go to the motion, that we review the letter and vote on the letter as a committee at a future meeting before it's just sent.
Okay, so we will amend the motion to.
I don't think you have to amend the motion. I just think, just if that gets in the
Sure.
minutes, that.
Okay, as a matter of practice, Jason, you're saying we do show the letters before we send. We don't send many letters, but we do get ready to approve them. Okay, so roll call. Judy Betts,
Aye.
Cook, nay.
Dennington, nay.
I'm
Sorry, you didn't call me for.
sorry,
Wait.
you got me confused here. Malinowski,
Aye.
Martell,
Nay.
Bath,
Aye.
Mr. Rooney, you're the tiebreaker.
Aye.
Okay, 4-3. All right, that should send a little bit of a message too, I hope. Okay. Let's see, so we've done all 5 reserve fund transfers. Okay, so now we've got 3 interdepartmental transfers. Okay, so this in essence is the 3 departments who overshot their budgets. So it's very few, very little money for the most part. There's one mistake that they, that was made this is correcting. Okay, so the first one is BOS. They spent more in their postage account than what they had projected. Anybody want to discuss that one further? So what's going to happen is they're going to basically credit that account and debit the benefits account. That is 140,000 in the black. So that's what they're going to, that's who they're moving to. So all these are going to be moved. All three of these are going to be moved to the benefits account. Okay, so Andrew, Denny, you want to make a motion for this one?
Move that we approve an interdepartmental transfer of $5,600 from the benefits budget to the Board of Selectmen, Department number 122, for postage usage.
Andrew Pfaff?
Second.
Okay, roll call. Judy?
Aye.
Cook, aye. Dennington?
Aye.
Malinowski?
Aye.
Martell?
Aye.
Pfaff?
Aye.
Mr. Rooney?
Aye.
All right, 7-0. All right, the next interdepartmental transfer is the building. And I have spent 2 hours on the phone with Mark and Brian 2 different times this week trying to understand this one, and I'll do the best I can with it. It's a mistake. How you can make a mistake like this, I still don't understand, because there's nothing in that budget for the most part except for people. So try to make a long story short, for fiscal year 20, instead of budgeting for 2 full-time people, the building inspector and the full-time assistant, they budgeted for a part-time assistant. And we're just now hearing about it. The assistant that was hired in January of 19 was full-time. She was hired shortly after this budget was at least put together preliminarily, but they still had a chance to look at it and change it, and they didn't. So how you can catch this when that's kind of your whole budget, I don't know. The current building inspector was hired January of 19. The admin was hired a couple weeks later. They had the rest of the year to figure out what was wrong. They should have seen it when they were trying to put the budget together for the next year, but they didn't. So I don't know how this slipped through. But that's about the best I can do. I have gone back and asked about this over and over. I've looked at past budgets. I've been assured that this was a full-time position. Well, I don't know what else to say. I don't see how you miss something like this, but it is being characterized as a error. Now, when did Brian Ballantyne and Heidi know about it? In December, when they started looking at budgets to actual and realized that there was much more being spent in the salaries account than should have been pro rata. So that's when they knew about it. We weren't told about it until we saw this. So they knew about it 6 months ago.
So this is something that would show up on the type of monthly or quarterly report that we're talking about a lot earlier.
It would
right?
indeed. It would indeed.
Sounds like there's a remedy moving forward.
Yeah, and I've looked at, I went back and looked at fiscal year 21. They clearly do have 2 full-time people budgeted, so it looks like it's right for fiscal year 21.
The two budgeted people are the building inspector and the assistant to the building inspector, right?
Yeah, so they're full-time. And then on top of that, you've got the ZBA part-time person, Katie Berry, who helps them out too, especially now when there's not a lot of ZBA stuff going on. So she's there too. So there was confusion over part-time, and how to share something. So I remember there being discussions about doing things part-time. I can remember Sam Stiver saying we really need a full-time person in the building department. Well, they had a full-time person. So I still can't completely explain this other than what I've told you.
Kathy, what are the consequences attendant to not approving this?
Same thing that I said about the reserve fund. It just means that it goes in as a negative to the state, and the auditor will probably put a sentence or 2 in his management report about it. There's still, we still have a big surplus with the town. We got probably $2 million surplus this year. So overall, we're fine. Will go in with one line item being in the red. So no different than what we talked about before with reserve fund, John.
Thank you.
But this is by no means an emergency.
Well, this is not reserve fund either. So this is just an interdepartmental transfer. So this is not reserve fund that's coming out.
Got it. Thank you.
They definitely did not call this an emergency or unexpected. They call this a mistake. And they didn't quibble about it. I will say they called it a mistake from the moment we started talking about this. They said it's just clearly a mistake. Don't know how it happened. Okay. So Andrew, you want to make a motion on this one?
Departmental transfer of $18,286 from the benefits budget to the building department, department number 241 for admin part-time budgeted.
Seconded.
Roll call, Judy,
Bud's eye.
Cook, aye. Andrew, Dennington,
Malinowski, aye.
Bath,
Tim?
aye.
Tim,
Martell, aye.
Andrew,
Bath, aye.
Mr. Mooney.
Aye.
All right, 7-0 on that one. Last one is pretty small. It's the liability insurance attributable to the new building. It's not over much. So we've got one account that's set up for liability insurance for the entire town. And so this one's over because of the piece that was allocated to the new building. Anybody want to discuss that one any further?
No, I mean, I'm noticing something that, we do differently that maybe we should look at. We actually have buildings as separate kind of fund centers. So maybe the public safety building, maybe some of the other buildings is not as a necessity, but it would be nice to try to track the public safety building on its own to budget the heating and the liability insurance and all those things on its own. It's all getting lumped into a bigger budget and it's tough to track that kind of stuff.
The utilities are definitely tracked by building. And we can talk about that at a future meeting. I can't speak to the insurance.
But I mean, there's no like fund center, so there's no like budget for public safety, budget for.
The way they build it up is by building, based on actual detail.
So
So
it's more, but Andrew's right, it's more functional than it is by building. So, the function is utilities, the function is liability
you
insurance.
just need a sub-account, I think is what you're asking for.
Yeah, well, I'm basically like the Board of Selectmen went over their postage budget, but the Board of Selectmen doesn't get a legal charge. You know what I mean? Like if the Board of Selectmen needed special counsel for something and there was a legal charge, it should hit the Board of Selectmen budget.
That I would like to speak up, and I do not think that's a good idea because there's only a handful of departments that are going to have earned this situation: the planning board, the ZBA, and these are boards where, as a member, you're encouraged to, just make what you think is the correct decision, notwithstanding whether someone would appeal, even if you think it was a correct decision. So this creates some kind of slight incentive to be more cautious or conservative in the way you vote to avoid a appeal in a way that may be appropriate if you're a for-profit business. Maybe we should to settle this demand letter rather than say no and have a lawsuit. And also, these are a lot of these, the legal expense. There are appeals where kind of the town is just a nominal party. The real, like in the Park Central matter, where you're asking whether Aldo is going to try that case. The most active attorneys are going to be the attorneys for Park Central and the abutters. So I don't think I can understand the analogy between that and the private sector, but I do not think it fits.
Okay, I could see that on the legal side.
And I mean, Andrew, the big thing we don't do is we don't allocate benefits to salaries. We just pick up the gross salary and benefits are all at separate line items. So that's one too. So we definitely don't do full cost accounting as far as these departments go. That's for sure, and never have. So, we can talk about this later. We're not going to get through it tonight. We got 12 minutes to get through everything else before we get cut off here. So let's just go ahead and continue and get this part done. And then we know that that's something else we can bring up later.
Make a motion about the liability insurance.
Yes, please.
I move that we approve a interdepartmental transfer of $1,290 from the benefits budget to liability insurance department number 945.
Second.
Okay, roll call, Judy,
Bud's eye.
Cook, aye, Dennington.
Aye.
Malinowski,
Aye.
Martell,
Aye.
Bath,
Aye.
Rooney.
Aye.
7-0. But again, guys, big picture here for a $55 million budget. This is actually, so you can conclude a few things here. You could include, if this is the only departments that went over budget, these three we just did, to get the reserve fund transfers, that's pretty darn good. Or you could conclude that we've got some fat in some of these budgets. That's why this happens, that there should be, you would think there'd be more that would be over than these three small things.
With the exception of the legal, because we also approved a reserve fund transfer last year to meet unexpected legal expenses, that the legal budget, because which has kept the same for a long time, is actually too low.
Yeah. And so, Andrew, I think that's probably the answer there is we've had, I cannot remember any number other than 95 as long as I've been involved in town finances. I mean, it's gone back a long way. So the fact that we're still close to the number is probably miraculous. So for fiscal year 22, maybe we do propose that this number goes up, because when you start seeing reserve fund transfers that are same year after year, like we used to see for DPW with the snow, there's something wrong with the budget.
Kathy, I guess just for the future, I know we're not gonna do this again for another year, but it would have been nice to have Mark and Brian here, because I feel like we hypothesized a little bit. I don't know where they are, if they're invited or not, but
Jason, they normally are, but because this is not a public meeting, we couldn't get that room. I didn't think about trying to get them in as a panelist, which is what I would have had to do. So I believe that they are listening to this. And I did go over everything with them before.
Okay.
So no, I agree.
just-
Normally they're with us, or one of them is anyway.
I just, don't like making comments, et cetera, without someone being able to say we're right or wrong, but I think they'll get the message.
All right. Okay, so that was the thing we had to get done. So we need to elect officers in 9 minutes. Okay. So we're going to elect 3 officers: chair, vice chair, secretary. As I've mentioned before, the vice chair is not officially in the advisory bylaw, which we can fix going forward, but it's not there. But we've done that for probably 6 or 7 years now, had a vice chair for good reason. So I would propose we continue to elect a vice chair. I want to start off with one question. Andrew Pfaff, you do not want to be secretary again, correct? Okay,
No, thank you.
want to make sure that was clear. So, okay,
I respectfully
Yep.
decline.
Do we have money for a minute taker?
we do. And we must get a minute taker. So I will vow to everyone tonight that I will work with Mark Purple, given that we still have people that are not back full time, to at least find a minute taker through the end of the year, the calendar year. And then we can go from there.
Can I make a suggestion on that, Kathy?
Yes, Jason,
We're gonna be in Zoom for a while, right? Like, I don't see that changing.
I agree.
Maybe instead of having Tom have to be the host, which I think is obviously, and I know the committee would probably agree, not the best use of his time and skill set. Like, if, I know there's a lot of other people trained, like when we approach Mark, see if whoever's running the Zoom can also take our minutes. And maybe that's a little extra stipend for them for doing it outside. I mean, right, it's in the budget, right? Incentivizes someone to do it. It gets these done right. And this is an important committee to have the meetings done right. I don't know if that's possible, but I'm just throwing it out there. There's always a town employee now in our meetings.
Okay, it's good suggestion. Soon, hopefully Tom won't be running these meetings. He'll have his assistant doing it, but that's a good suggestion. Anybody else have another suggestion about how to find a minute taker that?
No, I mean, I've seen other towns actually have an actual either FTE or a part-time employee that just handles advisory. I don't think we need one, but just,
That they assigned?
no, they actually have somebody that works like an employee, like a coordinator,
Just for their town finance committee?
just for, yeah, their finance committee.
I think we're a long way from having an employee
No,
full-time.
I don't think we need one. I'm just saying, I think we're doing it pretty lean
I
right
just
now.
want a minute taker for now. Okay, so I will work on this. I'll report back. I just want to make sure that Andrew Pfaff is not in the running for secretary. Okay, so let's start with chair.
I
So all
nominate
us-
Kathy.
Hold on, Judy.
No,
So-
let's go for it.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I nominate Kathy for chair.
Okay, is there anyone else that would like to be chair for fiscal year 21?
I second Judy.
Okay. And just so you know, I really would like to do it one more year. This is the last year of my term. I do think that I'm going to ride off into the sunset after this term. And I'd like to do it one more year, hopefully get a little bit better. So I'm happy to do it, and I actually want to do it. It's not something you're I'm being drugged and kicked to do. So I actually would like to do it if no one else does.
Very enthusiastic, yes.
Okay.
Kathy.
Okay.
So, Kathy, quick question for you. Your term on the town website says you end in 22. Does that mean,
Jason, are you sure? I thought it was 21.
I'm looking at it right now.
All right. Okay, so you may be 2 more years, but someone else can be chair next year. How about that? That was 21. Okay, sorry. All right, so thank you, Jason, for telling me that. I'm sorry. Okay,
So
so
I
vice,
am not going to challenge you, but I will throw just out that I am happy to assist in collaborating, especially given what we're going to be having to do on capital this year and how that integrates into operations. And I would very much be willing to help in any capacity. I'm not really as concerned about title as much as I am about process and making sure like we're not doing meetings like this on the night things are due.
well, Jason, we do have a secretary spot that we have to fill in just a minute. So anyway, okay, so vice chair. Anyone want to raise their hand for vice chair?
I would be happy to do it.
Andrew Pfaff?
I'd be willing to do it as well.
Anybody else?
Who was the first person who said they would be happy to do it?
Jason,
Okay, thank you.
and then Andrew Pfaff.
This is Andrew. I would like to nominate Andrew Pfaff to be vice chair.
Okay.
Second.
All right. I guess we should vote on these one at a time. Okay, so let's go back to chairs. So there's been a motion by Judy to nominate Kathy Cook, and there was a second by Andrew Pfaff. So let's vote on that one first. So roll call, Judy Butts,
Bud's eye.
Cook abstains. Dennington,
Aye.
Malinowski,
Aye.
Martell,
Aye.
Pfaff,
Aye.
Mr. Mooney.
Aye.
So 601 on chair. Vice chair, we've had a motion to nominate Andrew Pfaff by Mr. Dennington. And who was the second?
I was.
Judy Butts seconded that one. So roll call vote. Judy,
Bud's eye.
Cook, aye. Dennington,
Aye.
Malinowski,
Aye.
Martell,
Aye.
Andrew Pfaff,
Abstain.
Mr. Mooney.
Aye.
Okay, so again, 601. Okay, secretary, don't everybody raise their hand at one time, please. So we're going to have a minute taker, whoever takes this job. I promise, we will get one. But we have to have a secretary to make sure they get posted, get done, and get revised. So there is work to be done. It's not nothing.
Problem with this position is that Pfaff has created such a paradigm for the next secretary to hold that.
He has indeed, has indeed.
Go.
Let's just nominate him anyway.
Well, he can't be two. I guess he
Well-
could, but
If everyone would be willing to lower their expectations so that the minutes will not be as precise as they were under Mr. Pfaff's term, I would be willing to be the secretary. But it's absolutely essential that there's a minute taker, right? And the role is basically overlooking what the minute taker does and making sure that it's okay and then distributing them, correct?
okay. So someone nominate Andrew Dennington pretty
Well,
quick. We got 2 minutes
Did I
here.
get that correctly, though?
Yes,
Yeah.
you did.
I
Yes, you did.
nominate Andrew Dennington to be the secretary.
Okay, Tim Martell nominated Andrew second.
I second.
Andrew Pfaff seconded very quickly. Roll call, Judy,
Bud's eye.
Cook, aye. Dennington.
Aye.
You can vote for yourself. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. Malinowski,
Aye.
Martell,
Aye.
Pfaff,
Aye.
Rooney.
Aye.
All right, 7-0. Okay, we got 1 minute. So let me just review the meeting dates. So we've got meeting dates scheduled, 3 different meeting dates scheduled for every other week from this point on at 5:30. They are public meetings. I've got the room reserved. So they are 7/29, 8/12, and 8/26.
Kathy, my only comment, that seems to be a relatively heavy schedule for the summer. Do you expect us to have shorter meetings with more meetings, or what the rationale is behind that, that schedule?
I don't expect to have long meetings, John, in answer to the first part of the question. I do expect to have some pretty substantive stuff on the agenda. For example, the 10-year budget model. So we've got some pretty big things where we're going to continue to talk about the IT risk that we identified last year. So we've got some pretty substantive stuff. Now, if it turns out we don't have enough to meet, we'll cancel it. So at least it wanted to get it on the agenda so we could potentially do this if we need to. Right now, I think we need to, from what I know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right. Okay,
Kathy.
so we're getting ready to get cut off. So yes, Andrew.
I don't mean to interrupt your flow, but does it make sense to talk now or at the next meeting about, what members should liaise with what departments for the upcoming year? Because that's something that we did do over the summer last year, right?
Yes, we should do that, but I think that's a little bit premature for next meeting. We need to set budget parameters first and then talk about how to liaise with the different departments. Okay, and I assume Tom is literally going to cut us off in a second, so I'm going to go ahead and ask for a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Okay.
moved.
Okay, so Tim Martell moved, Andrew Pfaff seconded. Roll call, Judy,
Bud's eye.
Cook, aye, Dennington,
Aye.
Malinowski,
Aye.
Martell,
Aye.
Pfaff,
aye,
Rooney.
abstain.
Rooney. Okay,
He's
we've
gone.
still got.
By
we've got
walking
six.
away, he accepted.
There he is. Okay,
Aye.
Mr. Rooney, aye,
Aye.
there you go, 7-0. Okay, thank you, guys. It's 6:16, so we got to go.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay,
Thank
bye-bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.